The sea is never still. Even when it looks calm, it breathes, a slow and patient rise and fall, as if the world itself is sleeping with one eye open. Waves roll in, retreat, return again, endlessly rehearsing the same ancient story. Somewhere far below the skin of the water, pressure shifts. Currents slide past one another like thoughts that never quite surface. This is where Ulmo is felt most strongly, not as a figure standing upon the waves, but as motion itself, as memory carried in salt and echo, as a presence that does not need a throne to rule. He is already here, listening long before anyone thinks to look for him. Welcome to the Elder Darkness. On this journey we follow the power of Ulmo, Lord of Waters, the most solitary of the Valar, and perhaps the one who never truly leaves Middle-earth. Unlike his brethren, who dwell behind the guarded hills of Valinor, Ulmo moves where he wills, unseen and uninvited, flowing through every river, every rainstorm, every tear that falls into the soil. You might find yourself somewhere in the story, perhaps near a shoreline at dusk, or standing beside a river that suddenly feels a little too old for comfort. If you're enjoying the journey, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep these tales flowing. And while you're here, drop your location in the comments. Are you listening from near the sea, a river, or somewhere landlocked but dreaming of water? Now lie back and relax as we travel to the world of Middle-earth. Voice beneath the waves. Ulmo enters the history of Arda at its very beginning, in the music of the Ainur, where his theme is deep, vast, and patient. While Melkor strives for domination and discord, Ulmo's music moves around and through the chaos, not confronting it head-on, but enduring it. Middle-earth historians still debate whether Ulmo's music subtly limited Melkor's power even then, shaping a world where water would always resist absolute corruption. When the world is made, Ulmo does not claim mountains or skies. He claims movement, seas, rivers, springs beneath stone. Even the moisture in the air belong to him. Water remembers, and Ulmo remembers everything. Unlike Manwë, who rules openly from the heights, Ulmo chooses isolation. He rarely walks in visible form, and when he does, it is often in moments of crisis. Instead, he speaks through sound. The crash of waves, the sudden clarity of a dream, the uneasy feeling that pulls someone toward the sea without explanation. This makes him strangely intimate. You cannot wall him out. A city can shut its gates, but it still needs water. A king can deny the Valar, but he still drinks, still bathes, still hears rain on stone at night. Ulmo's power seeps in regardless of belief. His greatest interventions come not through armies, but through counsel. In the Elder Days, he warns the elves again and again about Morgoth's shadow, sending messages through rivers and seas when other Valar have grown distant. It is Ulmo who speaks to Turgon and Finrod Felagund, guiding them toward the hidden realms of Gondolin and Nargothrond. There is a quiet irony here. The most secret cities of the First Age owe their founding to the one Vala who cannot truly be shut out. Some fringe lore enthusiasts like to point out that every hidden elven stronghold Ulmo advises ends up destroyed anyway, which is either tragic foresight or the worst track record in Valar urban planning. Ulmo's power is not about prevention. It is about endurance. He knows that walls fall, but rivers continue. This philosophy carries forward into the Third Age, long after most of the Valar have withdrawn their direct attention. During the War of the Ring, Ulmo never appears in person, yet his influence is everywhere. When the Fellowship travels down the Anduin, the great river bears them swiftly southward, past Argonath and into danger. The water does not protect them from orcs or betrayal, but it carries them where they must go. Middle-earth historians still debate whether the river's cooperation is a conscious act of Ulmo, or simply the natural alignment of his will with the unfolding fate of the world. Boromir's death occurs beside water, his body later set adrift in a funeral boat, borne away by the Anduin. This is not just symbolism, it is Ulmo's domain providing a kind of final mercy. The river takes Boromir where word cannot, beyond grief and blame, and delivers him to the sea, where all stories eventually end. Ulmo does not judge. He receives. There is something unsettling about Ulmo's independence. He obeys the will of Eru Ilúvatar, yet he does not always follow the consensus of the Valar. When they retreat from Middle-earth after the War of Wrath, Ulmo remains involved, continuing to send warnings and guidance. This has led some scholars to suggest that Ulmo understands the children of Ilúvatar better than his peers, not because he loves them more, but because he watches them longer. Water wears down stone not through force, but through patience, and Ulmo's concern is measured in ages, not victories. A quirky tidbit often overlooked is Ulmo's fondness for musical instruments, particularly great horns and conches, whose voices can be heard across vast distances. In some early traditions, it is said that hearing such a horn near the sea can cause overwhelming longing or sudden resolve. Whether this is literal or poetic remains unclear, but many readers quietly suspect Ulmo would be the Vala most likely to communicate via an impossibly loud shell rather than a formal meeting. It fits the brand. Ulmo's relationship with the sea also gives him a unique resistance to corruption. Morgoth poisons much of Arda, twisting land and creature alike, but water never fully submits. Even when tainted, it can cleanse itself over time. This makes Ulmo a counterbalance to despair. He does not promise that evil will be avoided, only that it will not have the final word. Every flood recedes, every storm passes, even the longest drought ends. Remember how the Fellowship feels watched in Lothlorien, as if the land itself is aware of them? That sensation is older and broader with water. Rivers have seen worse than ring-bearers. Seas have swallowed empires and forgotten them. Ulmo's power is that scale of perspective, reminding Middle-earth that no single darkness is absolute, no matter how loudly it declares itself eternal. And yet, for all this vastness, Ulmo remains strangely lonely. He does not rule over followers in the same way as other Valar. Ossa and Weenan serve him, but even they embody the sea's unpredictability rather than obedience. Ulmo chooses distance, and distance is the cost of his freedom. He hears everything, but is rarely answered. As the Third Age wears on, Ulmo's influence becomes quieter, harder to trace, like a river sinking underground only to re-emerge miles away. But it never disappears. It cannot. As long as Middle-earth has rain, tears, tides, and blood, yes, even that, Ulmo is present, listening, waiting, enduring. Echoes in rivers and ruin. Ulmo's presence does not fade as the ages grind forward. It thins, stretches, and disperses like mist rising from a river at dawn. By the late Third Age, few in Middle-earth would name him outright, yet many feel him without knowing why. Fishermen trust currents they cannot explain. Travelers pause at riverbanks, struck by sudden hesitation or resolve. Dreams come, uninvited, heavy with the sound of surf. Ulmo no longer announces himself. He influences through instinct, through the quiet alignment of choice and consequence, and this subtlety may be his greatest power. During the War of the Ring, water repeatedly becomes a boundary evil struggles to cross. The Ford of Bruinen is the clearest example. When the ring wraiths pursue Frodo to Rivendell, it is the river, swollen, commanded, and crowned with white horses of foam, that rises against them. Elrond names the power at work, and Gandalf amplifies it, but the raw force belongs to Ulmo's domain. Middle-earth historians still debate whether Ulmo himself stirs the flood or whether the river, long under his influence, acts almost independently, like a student who no longer needs direct instruction. Either way, the Nazgul are swept away, shrieking, and for a moment, the water reminds the shadow that it cannot simply walk everywhere it pleases. Ulmo's influence is not always so dramatic. Often, it is expressed through preservation rather than destruction. The waters of Rivendell heal. The fountains of Ithilien still run clear, even as Mordor darkens the land nearby. Sam Gamgee, trudging through despair in the dead marshes, notices a single star reflected in stagnant water, and hope flickers again. That reflection belongs to light, yes, but water makes it visible. Ulmo does not create hope. He reveals it when it already exists, which is a much subtler trick and far harder to corrupt. There is an ongoing scholarly argument about whether Ulmo understands fate better than the other Valar, or simply accepts it more readily. He rarely attempts to change destiny outright. Instead, he prepares paths. Rivers are choices made liquid. Once you step in, you are carried, whether you like it or not. The Fellowship's journey mirrors this philosophy. Moments of decision followed by long stretches where consequences simply unfold. Ulmo's power lies in shaping those currents early, long before anyone notices they are drifting. A lesser-known but delightfully strange tidbit is Ulmo's reputed dislike of dry places. Some texts suggest that he avoids regions without flowing water, not out of weakness, but discomfort, as though prolonged dryness dulls his awareness. This has led to the half-joking theory that Ulmo finds deserts deeply annoying, like static on a line. If true, it adds a wonderfully petty edge to an otherwise cosmic being, Lord of Waters, mildly irritated by sand. Ulmo's relationship with the Free Peoples is uniquely egalitarian. He favors no race exclusively. Elves hear him most clearly, especially the Teleri, whose love for the sea borders on reverence. Men receive his warnings in dreams and unease, often without understanding the source. Hobbits, being hobbits, mostly experience Ulmo as weather that complicates their plans. There is something endearing in the idea that one of the greatest powers in Arda manifests to hobbits primarily as unexpected rain. As magic wanes and the Age of Men dawns, Ulmo's role becomes more ambiguous. He does not resist the fading of the world, but neither does he celebrate it. Water adapts, rivers change course, seas erode coastlines and create new ones. Ulmo embodies transition, and the Fourth Age is nothing if not a transition on a continental scale. Middle-earth historians still debate whether Ulmo withdraws further after Sauron's fall, or whether he becomes even more deeply embedded, choosing to exist entirely as process rather than presence. There is a quiet melancholy to Ulmo's endurance. He outlasts kings, cities, even stories. Gondolin falls, Numenor sinks. The ring is destroyed. Yet the sea remains, rolling against the shores of a reshaped world. Ulmo remembers every voice ever lost to drowning, every oath sworn beside water, every tear shed into soil. This memory is not judgmental, it is archival. Someone has to remember when everyone else moves on. In the end, Ulmo's power is not about dominance, but about refusal. Refusal to abandon Middle-earth. Refusal to let corruption have permanence. Refusal to be neatly contained within myth or temple. He is the Vala you cannot lock out. The one who arrives anyway, under doors and through cracks, patient as erosion and just as unstoppable. When the last song fades and the last tower crumbles, water will still move, and Ulmo will still be there, listening. And as the noise of history finally softens, as battles become footnotes and names blur into legend, the sound that remains is a familiar one. A shore, a river, rain against stone. Not an ending, exactly, just a continuation, flowing onward, carrying the world with it, whether it knows the name Ulmo or not. The pace slows now, like a river widening as it nears the sea. The sharp edges of the story soften, and the details blur gently, the way distant lights shimmer across dark water at night. Ulmo's presence recedes from thought, but not from feeling. The world grows quieter, steadier, held together by rhythms older than fear or hope. Waves arrive, pause, withdraw. Breath follows them without effort. There is nothing left to decide here. No warning to heed, no storm to outrun. Just the steady reassurance that something vast and patient remains awake, even when the world sleeps. Ulmo does not demand attention. He allows rest. The sea does not ask you to understand it. It only asks that you listen, and even that is optional. Imagine standing at the edge of water now, wherever your mind chooses, a shoreline, a riverbank, rain tapping softly against a window. The surface reflects fragments of light, broken but beautiful, never still, never lost. Each ripple carries memory away and brings calm in its place. The past drifts downstream. The future waits beyond the bend. The sound grows softer, the current steadies. Thoughts loosen their grip and float free one by one until there is only motion without urgency, presence without demand. Somewhere far below, something ancient listens, not for words, but for the simple fact that you are here, breathing, carried for a moment in the long flow of things.